Good morning, everyone. This is Frank DiMora, the author of the book, The Last Chronicles of Planet Earth. Today is October the 8th of 2015. Yesterday, I wrote a post concerning an oil find in Israel and how that oil find could actually cause war between the Arab states and Israel, as the power, because of this black gold found in the sand and in the sea. And of course, this is fulfillment of Bible prophecy in Deuteronomy chapter 33, where Israel was going to be discovering oil. And they definitely have done that. So in my comparison yesterday, I connected the dots between the prophecy about finding the oil and Psalm 83, a war that hasn't been fulfilled yet. And this morning when I got up, the first thing I did is to check the news, and I saw an article that was written, and it says just about the same thing. And it was almost like confirmation that what I'm saying is spot on. So I wanted to share this with you. There's a little bit other information in there that I didn't write about, but for the most part, I would have to say it's 95% of what I was showing you. So here's another take on it. I'll just read from this article. It is very important because war is coming. We see that, and the players are being set in place to fulfill all of these prophecies. And of course, the players that I'm talking about are the nations that surround Israel immediately, like Iraq and Syria, Lebanon, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, those nations that are listed in the Psalm 83 war, and obviously now Russia in the north, in Syria. And they're fighting against the rebels, trying to depose Bashar al-Assad. And of course, ISIS is in there as well, and Russia's hitting those people as well. So take a look at this article. It comes from the End of American Dream. You'll see, will the discovery of huge amounts of oil in Israel lead to war in the Middle East? This was from yesterday, 2007. Billions of barrels of oil have been discovered in Israel, and this discovery could essentially make Israel energy independent for many decades to come. But there is just one problem. This discovery was made in the Golan Heights. If you are not familiar with the Golan Heights, it is an area that Israel took from Syria during the Six-Day War of 1967. The government of Israel considers the Golan Heights to be part of Israeli territory, but the United Nations does not recognize Israel's claim. Instead, the UN still recognizes Syrian sovereignty over that area. So now that massive amounts of oil have been discovered there, what will this do to tensions in the region? Could this discovery of oil help set the stage for World War III? And this is essentially what I said in that post yesterday. So let's continue. When I first read about the discovery of all this oil, I was quite stunned. Ever since 1948, Israel had to import virtually all of the oil that it uses. And so this oil in the Golan Heights could be a huge game changer. The following is an excerpt from an article in an Israeli news source about this discovery. Now, the article that he goes to is the same article that I pulled up yesterday and read from it. So I'm going to read it again in case you did not see that video that I produced yesterday. There's a lot of people who are coming every day that haven't been to my site, and you may not have seen this, and it is important. It says this: 3 drillings have been so far taken place in the southern Golan Heights, which have found large reserves of oil. Potential production is dramatic, billions of barrels, which will easily provide all Israel's oil needs. Israel consumes 270,000 barrels of oil per day. Although the existence of the oil in the ground is a fact, the critical phase now is to check how easy it can be extracted and whether it involves high production cost. In a period of very low oil prices, extraction will have to be relatively cheap to make exploration of the field profitable. Just as Israel's offshore Mediterranean gas discoveries have created an entire energy industry, so the Golan oil field could also generate a new industry around it. As I write this, the price of U.S. oil is sitting at $48.13 a barrel. So when you're talking about billions of barrels of oil, you are talking about tremendous amounts of money. Do you think that Syria and Israel's other Arab nations are going to enjoy sitting there as Israel pumps their oil out of the ground? Apparently, this discovery is highly unusual. Here is what one scientist told Israeli television about what they found. We are talking about the strata, which is 350 meters thick, and what is important in the thickness and the process. On average, in the world, strata are 20 to 30 meters thick. So this is 10 times as large as that. So we are talking about significant quantities. Geologist Yev Bartov of Afik Oil and Gas told Israeli television. So here we have an unusual oil found. And it's not unusual to anyone who knows the word of the Lord, because we are expecting Israel to find huge oil and gas. This is what's the promise from the word we found in Deuteronomy chapter 33. So, when they're talking about these massive finds, I'm excited because I know that they're going to extract even more oil than they are now. And it is definitely setting up for possible war between the Arabs, who have seen all these years getting all the money from the black gold, and now Israel all of a sudden is the new kid on the block, and it is, to the Arabs, it is threatening. It goes on to say, needless to say, this is great news for Israel, but it is also going to give renewed motivation to those that wish to take the Golan Heights back from the Israelis. Now, yesterday I talked about Bashar al-Assad, and ever since 1967, when Bashar al-Assad lost that war with the rest of the Arabs who were attacking Israel, he has pledged that he was going to retake the Golan Heights, whether by peace or by force. And the only thing that has stopped him as of late was civil war that's been going on for 3 or 4 years. So if Russia comes in, which they're already there and they're bombing now, and it looks like they're scattering the enemies very quickly, that in the near future you may see again instigation by Syria and Russia, for that matter, trying to get this oil from Israel, and that could be the spoil that we see from the Ezekiel war that will take place after the Psalm 83 war. So in this article, they quote this Jewish news. Let me just go down here. And he has this highlighted here, so I'll just read this. It says, Syria has claimed the entire Golan since it lost the strategic and water-rich area in the Six-Day War, 1967. If the oil can be extracted, it will be a huge bonanza for Israel and an enormous reason for whoever rules in Syria, or for Hezbollah, that is fighting with Assad's forces and is based in Lebanon, to launch war on Israel. And of course, yesterday in what I wrote, I talked about the Hezbollah, Lebanon, and Syria. All three of those nations are mentioned in the Psalm 83 war. So for the new people, this is very, very important information, because it is a road leading to the next war. It goes on. And this comes at a time when tensions between the Israelis and the Palestinians have reached a fever pitch. Israeli security forces and Palestinian protesters have been regularly clashing in the heart of Jerusalem. Yesterday I pointed to Zechariah chapter 12 verse 3, where Jerusalem would become a burdensome stone. That's what the prophet told us, and that's what we're seeing. Alright, so moving on, starting right here. And Palestinians were even temporarily banned from Jerusalem Old City for the first time in decades due to a series of recent stabbings and shootings. And if you've been watching the news today, you see that the tensions and the problems are still going on over the Temple Mount today. And this has to do with the road leading to rebuilding the Jewish temple. And in order for that to happen, the Jews have to have presence on the Temple Mount area. And this is where we see it going. They are eventually going to have that area. But let me continue on what he wrote. Things have gotten so bad that Benjamin Netanyahu felt that he had to cancel his upcoming visit to Germany just to deal with the crisis. The following comes from Rutgers. Israel's prime minister canceled a visit to Germany on Wednesday after a spat of attacks that included the stabbing of an Israeli soldier by a suspected Palestinian militant who police said was then shot dead by special forces. A steady rise in street violence, which Israeli and Palestinian leaders have sought to calm, have been fueled by confrontations around Jerusalem's Al-Aqsa Mosque complex, Islam's third holiest shrine, which Jews also reverence as the visits of the two ancient temples. In the third knife attack in Jerusalem in less than a week, a young Palestinian woman stabbed an Israeli on Wednesday near the contested site and was then shot by the injured man. The international community has become desperate to find a solution to this never-ending cycle of conflict and violence. The call to establish a Palestinian state has become deafening, and most global leaders seem to believe that two states living side by side in peace could finally bring stability to the region. Many have expected France to introduce a UN Security Council resolution which would give formal recognition to the Palestinian state last month, and there is still a chance that it may be submitted for a vote in the weeks ahead. France has indicated it will not go ahead without U.S. approval, and so that means that the fate of the division of the land of Israel lies in the hands of Barack Obama. So what will he ultimately do? And according to Political, Senate Minority Leader Harry Reid has twice asked Obama to publicly announce that he would veto any such resolution, but Obama never responded. And in my post yesterday, when I wrote about these certain events that were taking place, I said that according to Zechariah, it says that all the people will be coming against Israel. So that gives a high percentage or a high probability that that's exactly what Barack Obama is going to do. He's going to, again, throw Israel under the bus. So there's a lot of similarities to what I wrote yesterday and to what I'm reading today by someone else. Now here's a quote from where he was quoting from. It says, Senate Minority Leader Harry Reid on two different occasions this year went to the White House Chief of Staff Dennis McDowell seeking a public commitment from President Barack Obama that he would veto any UN resolution call for an independent Palestinian state. Both times, Obama did nothing. And in the recent months, there has been other signs that Obama is weighing his options. In June, Obama and the U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, Samantha Power, declined to comment on blocking a Palestinian resolution. And as I said yesterday, in my writing, that this president, Barack Obama, has been the worst president for the nation Israel that Israel has ever seen. And again, it goes hand in hand what we see in Zechariah 12, chapter 12, verse 3, where everybody will come against Israel. It says, behind the scenes, Reid, who was Obama's most steadfast ally on Capitol Hill, first approached Netanyahu shortly after earnest comments and asked that the president reverse his position. Netanyahu said the White House would look into it, said a source close to the issue, but took no action. So it certainly does look like Barack Obama is going to go along with the UN and not stand as a friend for Israel. On the second occasion, Reid, a strong supporter of Israel during his career in the Senate, believes such a declaration by Obama would help assuage nervous Senate Democrats as they weighed whether to back the president on the Iran nuclear deal. Reid was hopeful that he could block the Iran disapproval resolution, but he wanted to be certain he would have the votes in the face of fierce opposition from pro-Israeli groups. When push comes to shove, I fully expect that Barack Obama will eventually give his full public support to the UN Security Council resolution that France has been working on. I believe that we will see an internationally recognized Palestinian state, but I also believe that this will just set the stage for war on a scale that the Middle East has never experienced before. Then he writes, so do you agree with me? Please feel free to join the discussion by posting a comment below. And in my post yesterday, making the correlation between what he wrote and what I wrote, I point to the Bible. And in the Bible, it tells us that Israel will go to war at a time when they are alone, just like Zechariah told us. So what we're seeing here are just the footprints to get to the fruition of that prophecy. And I do believe that Barack Obama, just like this writer, is going to throw Israel under the bus. We've seen over the course of his presidency him do it before. And he's doing it more now than he's ever done. And all we see from Barack Obama is negativity between Israel and the United States, and I know that that's going to continue. So it has to continue to the point where everyone will be coming against Israel. That's the Bible prophecy. That's what it says in the Bible in Zechariah, and it will be fulfilled. So there's no doubt about it that what we're seeing here is evidence of the coming war. Now, he didn't mention what war it is. I will, because it's in the Bible. And he has given us the future before it's actually happened. So if you want to know what war I'm talking about, you just go read Psalm 83. It gives you the very names of the countries that are going to come together as one Confederate army, thinking that they're going to wipe Israel off the face of the map, thinking that the name of Israel will never be mentioned anymore. And that, my friends, as this writer wrote, is going to be a war that we have never seen before in the Middle East. But it is one of two wars that are going to be major birth pangs for the last days. The Psalm 83 war, and then the war after that, which would be the Ezekiel 38 war, in which you're going to have all kinds of Muslim nations that do not border Israel. They'll be the nations outside of the bordering nations, like Russia, like Ethiopia, like Sudan, like Turkey, major ally. All of these people coming down. So that's where it is. I just wanted to keep you up to date as what's going on in the Middle East, because we are definitely moving closer and closer to the Lord's second coming, as we see the rest of the prophecies that haven't been fulfilled will be fulfilled.